We've heard from 7, still in first round. Mr. Hamilton, thank you.
Thank you. The question was brought up earlier, but I just wanted to revisit. Did Save-A-Lot people specifically tell you January 15th is the end? I'm just curious to know if that is that came from them.
Yeah, they requested a contingency, that we would lift the contingency by January 15th.
What does that mean exactly? That you would lift the contingency?
That the lease is contingent to the 353.
Right.
That's a contingency. So they want that, it's out of the lease. It no longer is relevant. Am I explaining that right?
There's in leases and real estate contracts, there's what's called due diligence period,
Right.
in which we have to get governmental approvals. That's the big time. The governmental approval that is our contingency is the 353. The deadline for contingencies to be met is January 15th under the current agreement.
Okay. Thank you. Last week, when Audrey was here, I spoke with her about the question of why there was no real strong move to do some more exterior work on the building to make it more appealing. And I thought she said, of course she's not here tonight, but I believe she said she would look into that and report back. Do you have any information about that, around that? Because it seems to me that there's some not real expensive procedures that could be undertaken to really make the exterior of the building much more attractive.
I think if you look at that report on phase 3, we do have some budgeted put into there. It's mostly cosmetics for signages and cleaning up some of the ironwork and things like that in some of those areas there.
Right, but I'm talking specifically about the face of the building.
We looked into changing the face of that building at one time, and we're talking about over $2 million.
No, see, that's the same thing I got into with her. I'm not asking that you change the whole face. I'm asking, aren't there ways that are not terribly expensive to make the exterior of the building more appealing, more attractive?
Well, I'm not a construction guy and I'm not an architect, but it's my understanding the way that building is constructed with that concrete, with how it's beveled in, that just to put a face on that concrete is extremely costly to go in and do that. So it is actually cheaper to go in and put a face on it than it is to try to deal with the existing concrete. That's where we got into something like a $2 million deal, and with the rents downtown, there's no way we can do that. Now, out on the highway where you get $15 to $20 a square foot, that's possible. But we're going to try to deal with it, but we've got to have some we've got to have some income from this project to deal with any massive changes on the face of it. We're looking at cleaning it up, power washing it, which can't be included in these, as I understand. Under the 353 that we did, it's interior application. And there will be some cleanup, but it'll be more on those metal bars and that signage down through there.
Okay, thanks. I just would add, I too, it's already been mentioned, is disappointed in this job projection. I thought too that we were talking about 16 full-time jobs at the Save-A-Lot.
I don't think that job. We would like to have Save-A-Lot here to address that.
Well,
yeah, that would be very good.
We're really pleased at the way this comes out. I think it's just so positive. Because if you're just focused on Save-A-Lot, then you're going to be disappointed. But, the truth of the matter is, over the big picture, the current jobs are 50 full-time, 25 part-time. Our new job projection within 12 months is an additional 14 jobs. 4 of those are the Save-A-Lot. And then we're projecting that we would fill 2 small shop vacancies, one with approximately 4 full-time jobs and one with 6. So we have to look we're talking about the whole project and not just Save-A-Lot. So our projections are based on current jobs, new job projection within 12 months, job projection within 24. By the end of the third year, total potential jobs of 90. So we go from 50 to 90.
Well, I understand that, and that's a projection.
Right.
But I was focused when we last met on the jobs that Save-A-Lot was creating, and it was my understanding, maybe I misunderstood, that it was going to be 16.
Well, we had addressed it as 16 permanent jobs, and I think there was, as I addressed earlier, maybe some confusion on our end at whether it was full-time, and we had just addressed it as permanent. And so we tried our best to clarify that, and actually came up with better numbers by using more concrete calculations and a way to come up with the number. But again, the program requirement is to meet or exceed 15 jobs. So,
right.
I mean, we regardless of Save-A-Lot's 4 full-time, we still meet or exceed the requirement as it currently, in its current form.
Yes.
So, and,
Yes, thank you.
and I wanted to just go your question about the exterior. Part of blight is the deterioration, and in our case, there's more deterioration on the interior than the exterior.
Yeah,
and the way this program statement is written, interior is also something that's eligible according to the way the current program statement is.
I understand. To me, it just seems practical and sensible to make the building on the outside look as attractive as you can make it, and not spend an arm and a leg. And that was my discussion with Audrey, because I think if the building is more attractive, then you're going to attract more people. But, okay. The only other comment, which has already been made, my concern is the Super Value Corporation, according to Bloomberg Business Report and several others, is in a very poor position financially. It's not recommended for any analyst to buy stock in Super Value. So I do have a concern that something could fall apart. That's all. Thank you.
Still on first round. Anybody else? We haven't. Mr. Lightfoot.
Well, just to throw my 2 cents in, all the questions I came in with have already been answered. As far as the 353 goes, I was not on the board when it was set up this way, and I don't really care for the way it's set up. But fact of the matter is this does qualify under the 353 rules, and I'm happy to see a business wanting to come into town, definitely. The biggest problem I have is the impact on the school. I hate that part of it. I wish we had time to table it and try to negotiate something a little better. But the fact is, it does fall in under the 353, and I'm happy to see investors wanting to invest in our community and applaud that. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Ms. Melson.
Well, sitting here for the last 2 hours, find out that the original amount of money that was brought forward, it's a lot less that they're asking for now. I really appreciate that. The area on the north side needs a grocery store. We've known that. We don't have one. It'll allow people to walk to it. They have a grocery store that wants to come in. They are offering them a 7-year lease agreement with 4 5-year options on it. The abatement doesn't start till the project's completed and Save-A-Lot's in there. The cooperative agreement that has to be worked out will allow details to be inserted into that agreement. So if we need different things in there, we can put it within that cooperative agreement. So at this point, for this second reading, would it be appropriate now to make a motion to approve?
Second.
it's appropriate. We'll accept that motion. Motion's been made by Ms. Melson. Approve. Seconded by Ms. White. We'll now move into further discussion.
Mr. Mayor?
And this would be the second round, and it goes to Mr. Pardue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say, first off, I'm a big supporter of Raytown business. I bought a range at Clark's. I go to Panetti's every single day. Smith Brothers is my hardware store. The thing I'm concerned about is that I still feel like we're investing in this business that across the board we agree that there might be something we need to research about them. And the reason I feel like we're investing in them is because even if we were to wait until the construction was complete, there's still the possibility that they can go out of business before the abatement or before the 25 years is up and we get that back. And also even before they might not renew their lease after 7 years. At that point, we'd be stuck with a vacant grocery store. We'd have to do another 353 to remove that blight because unless another grocery store came in. But if something else wanted to come in, we're stuck with the grocery store setup. So that's my concern. I mean, I feel like, that's just where I'm coming from, so.
Second round on this side, Mr. Azier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd have to say, sitting here tonight, that a lot of really important things have been said, great points have been made. Certainly, everybody in this room has to be weighing everything very carefully. I've heard a lot of disheartening things too, and I want to just, I've sat on this board for 12 years, and I can remember those years very well because we repeated year after year after year, economic development, economic development, economic development. And I think my vote in the past proves that I'm for economic development. I'm certainly not against downtown or wanting downtown to succeed. And I think that when we look at some of the projects that we've already put in the downtown, for example, it was a tremendous job to get the old wooden bridge redone. That was over $600,000. We just finished the other bridge. Not counting on what we went through when we bought the old First Baptist Church, and that project was pretty daring from this board. It's a pretty big deal. Over almost $1 million went into that project for our dream. Our dream that if we had that green space, we would draw our anchor in, and we could save downtown and all of Raytown. And it's been sitting there now for quite a while. I would hate to think that truthfully, and it was mentioned that to save downtown now rests on putting in a small grocery store, one half the size of the one that we lost that didn't make it, that will save downtown. That's what was inferred. If Sav-A-Lot doesn't come in, if we can't do this project, then the investor that owns the property, he's not coming to us like the person from Raytown Plaza that said, we want to rebuild Raytown Plaza. This is all about a grocery store, a small grocery store. And truthfully, we put a lot of debate even in the Raytown Plaza. We supported it. And it never met our dreams. But we did dream and we did put it into it. I'd have to say it bothers me a little bit that Sav-A-Lot isn't here tonight. I mean, in every major project that we've done, they've always been an active part. Walmart was. They were always with us to the end. And if this project is so big to saving our downtown, this one store, because if we don't hit that January 15th deadline, it all goes down the tube, and so does downtown. That's what was inferred. That puts a pretty big burden on this board tonight to make that decision. And at the same time, we're hearing from the school district that everybody knows, every school district in the state has suffered. It's a pretty tough burden for everybody. I think it's very difficult. I mean, as I sit here, I keep wondering how I'm going to cast my vote. I like to support everybody. I guess what I'd like to see, because I heard it from the person that owned the property. We love Raytown. We believe in them. We want to support them. That's why we're here.
We want to gamble. We're putting everything on the line. But we can't wait a few more days because we might lose this project. We don't want to sit down with the school district and vote tonight. And that's kind of contrary to what they said. Because they heard from the school district, we just want to talk it out with you. And I didn't hear them reach back. And that bothers me a lot. Because this is not really about just downtown. It's about all of Raytown. It's about what we've dreamed about all these years. And I'm talking about the past decade. And the future decades to come. Because we do want to see the city flourish. I tell you what, I've been in this town 40 years. Smith Brothers and Clark's Appliances go back a long, long time. They're like Fox Drugs. They're part of our lifeblood. And we want to see them stay. It scares me when I think that this one little grocery store is going to save that store that's been here for decades and decades. At the same time, and I know as being an educator how important programs are. They've already cut a lot of programs. I mean, this is not about new cuts. It's about cutting year after year, big cuts. It's a big decision on everybody. I'm just sorry that we could not work that part out. And that, I will say personally, makes me just a little bit disappointed in the developer. Thank you.
Mr. Kramer.
Well, first of all, I'd like to point out that at the original meeting, the proposed amount spent was $1.2 million. We're down to $800,000. And what we've done is we trimmed 33% off of this abatement through discussion. Of course, Dr. Markley and other people have made comment about the developer actually negotiating with the school district. The school district just wants more time. And I can empathize with the school district, and I understand the revenue. We as a city suffer from decreased revenue as well. And the developer has had discussion with that school district. It's not that they've totally ignored them. They've had discussion with them. As far as this tenant being a solution to all our problems, it's not. Everybody knows as a kid when you put a jigsaw puzzle together, you put that jigsaw puzzle together one piece at a time. And all this is one piece. It's not the whole puzzle. But, you know, we've got to start somewhere. There's risk involved in everything that you do. These gentlemen, these investors that have maintained that property have invested in our community. They've invested for 3 years with no reward. But they've continued to put that money out there. We owe it to the people of this community. We owe it to the business owners. We owe it to school. That's another big puzzle that we got to put together. But at the end of the day, we got to make a decision tonight. And every once in a while, I break with the phrase that you can't change anything if you don't change anything. If you drive down the same street every day and get to the same stop sign and you turn the same direction, you're going to end up the same place. And that's what you got to ask yourself tonight. When you go down that street tonight and you make that right-hand turn, where is it going to take you? Are you willing to take a left-hand turn? So that's all I got.
I'm going to weigh in before somebody calls for a cease the vote here or cease the discussion, because I want to say a couple things. One, we have evidence on the north side of Raytown what can happen when a landlord, when an owner of a property does not take care of an old grocery store. It's, I used the term shameful a couple of months ago, and I probably shouldn't have done it at that time, but what that person, what that owner of that property is doing on the north side is 180 degrees from what the owner of this property has done. It is a mess on the north side, the old United Super there. And actually, I think this property owner has done a good job without having a tenant in there the last 3 years of maintaining that. He didn't have to, but he did, and I commend him for that. Regarding the exterior facade, and Steve Gunther and the rest of the architectural community, please forgive me in advance, but I don't have a problem with the exterior of that building as an architect. And when we're trying to watch the numbers, we're trying to be real careful about the dollars that are going into this. I'm not wanting a whole lot of dollars put to that exterior that is going to be forever something we've got to live with as far as tax abatement goes. So I'm not concerned about the exterior. I'm fine with the exterior. I'm fine with the improvements they're suggesting on that. I like the fact that we have potentially instant payback, personal property tax, sales tax, instantly from this. I consider myself a big fan of the school district, and I would have beers and have had beers with both Dr. Markley and Rick Tody, and they both kick my fanny in golf consistently. So what I'm going to say, I hope not to offend, the school district is a vital part of this community. We want to continue to help them any way we can. But if we do nothing with this property, if we do nothing with this, the property's going to decrease. I don't want it to ever be said, and I don't think it would be correct that if we approve this tonight, I don't ever want to hear that by this board approving this, the students of Raytown suffer. Because if we don't approve this tonight, they're going to continue to drop in revenue anyway. So we're not getting anything out of it now. So if we didn't have this in front of us, would we be losing programs and students? We wouldn't be to blame for that. So I don't want it to be said, if this gets approved tonight, that this board kept students and programs from happening. I think that would be incorrect, and I hope it would never be put on us for that. We haven't heard from other taxing entities of an objection. We haven't heard from the fire district with an objection. They've got a large piece in this. We haven't heard from parks. We haven't heard from library. We haven't heard from the other taxing agencies that they have a problem with this. Yes, I too wish that we were spending less money to get it. We were doing less abatement on it. But I think that although this will not save downtown, Jim, and I know you didn't mean to say that, this will not save our downtown, but it will be a piece. It will help to increase and bring back the density of residences in the downtown area. It will help to bring back and encourage businesses in our downtown area, so that's a good thing. And if I have to vote on this at this point, I would vote in favor.
Mayor Bauer.
Mr. Ertz?
Yes, before this goes on too much farther, I would agree with everything you said, first of all. But I would like to delve into the cooperative agreement so that we're clear on what type of agreements would be made. I think they're key to my vote on hearing some of the stipulations. Having known that I believe one of them that was mentioned was that the school district's going to be paid, was it $6,000 annually? I also have another one that there's a clawback provision should Save-A-Lot fail and close. And then is there any employment standards that have to be met in this case?
With regard to the last one, the employment, I think the applicant meets the criteria in the policy. So as I sit here today, sir, I don't know if you want employment. I don't know what those parameters are because they meet the policy. So
Everybody's talked about it. I just thought.
I know, but as I sit here today, I have no intent to address employment because they meet the policy.
Okay.
We've already talked about your middle point if Save-A-Lot closes. With regard to the I think is your first point, the capital contribution between the owner and the school district. I was not party to that conversation. I don't know what the intent of those parties are as to how they're going to memorialize that. I would imagine I'll be speaking with Ms. Bushyhead over the next several days, and we can work that out. That'll either be built in or that can be their own separate deal. I don't know what they talked about, so I don't know.
It would be nice if it was in the agreement with the rest of it, I would think, but it's up if we're good with it as a city. I want to make sure that the school district's good with it, at least for what that is. Sorry it wasn't more, obviously. I do think, obviously with the property taxes going one direction, on that property and nothing but south, I have to take that into consideration in that they did come back with a much better deal. Is there anything for if Save-A-Lot defaults on their taxes, on their personal property taxes or anything like that? Is that?
Well, again, I haven't drafted it, so I think that's something you and I have talked about that previously, and I have that in my notes to consider and address.
Okay. So a cooperative agreement, and do you have anything to add to the cooperative agreements, or would Jeremy Wilmoth like anything put into that, being our finance director?
Those of us that know Jeremy know he wants to put something in there.
We're all here.
Take a break and then talk about it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. We're close.
That's all I have for round two.
Okay. Mr. Van Buskirk, round two.
Just one. Go ahead, sir.
Sorry, I was waiting for Mr. Campo to speak before I mention it, but I think the items that you mentioned before are sufficient with what staff has done in previous agreements. What Mr. Campo was saying was that our current policy states that for this level of financing, 15 jobs must be either created or retained. So there's nothing in our current policy that would add to that level other than to say that if 15 jobs are not created or retained, then the tax abatement would cease, as Ms. Bushy had alluded to. So between the provisions that are already in your policy being put into the cooperative agreement, as they are in all projects, and adding the piece about if the tenant leaves, certainly we'd want to put in a buffer to give them time to find a replacement tenant of equal or comparable size. I think that would satisfy our requirements. I don't really want to speak on behalf of the city manager, but that would satisfy at least me.
I think the staff heard your comment, and what happened with other 353 development agreement is drafted by our council, signed by other parties, and done deal. But if you think this issue is significant enough and would require if you wish that it comes forward for your consideration, I think staff will be happy to provide that development agreement, bring it to your attention, get it done that way. So at least you have things in writing in front of you and to your satisfaction.
Yeah.
So if that is a wish of the council, the development agreement can be brought forward for your consideration.
Thank you.
Mr. Van Buskirk.
Actually, Jeremy addressed my question, but not specifically. And that was, would this void the abatement agreement if 15 full-time jobs were not created or retained? So if they didn't create or retain 15 full-time jobs, that the abatement agreement would not be valid. Is that correct?
We're looking in the policy right now. It says a minimum of 15 full-time positions.
It says economic impact level 3 indicates the actual construction investment must be at least $500,000. A minimum of 15 full-time employee positions are created or retained at the site.
That's right. So if 15 full-time positions were not in the site, and the site is the entire center, then they would lose the abatement.
Then it would no longer be valid.
Right.
Is that correct? Okay.
Good. Bill?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Christine, anything else?
I have been so patient.
Oh, Christine White.
Okay, and I'm going to keep this short because I know we're going to vote soon. But one of the things I would like everyone to keep in mind is we, the city, or the school district even, is not investing. We are not footing the bill. There is not a penny coming out of the pocket. You cannot say that taxes that are going to be paid 5 years down the road are coming out of your pocket because they're not going to be written. It doesn't make sense. That is not their money until they get it. So nobody's footing the bill for this other than the property owners. And thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here. I know it's been a long night. But this is a wonderful tool that we've got in front of us. And what we need to do, even though, of course, it's going to be tough to make budgets for all the taxing entities, it will be tough for a few years. We've been through a couple of years of tough budgets, and this is just something we know is coming up. We're going to have to adjust, but we're all in it together. And we're all in it together because it's in the best interest of the city. 15 years, 20 years, 25 years down the road, we will have made a difference, instead of sitting and wishing that some perfect solution was going to come along, because frankly, I don't want to tell my constituents that I'm waiting for some dream that's not going to happen. This is the real world, and we need to look at this for what it is. This is a tool that's going to help. It's not going to save our city, but it's going to spur some economic development, and that's what our citizens want from us.
Okay. We've got a motion. We've got a second. No more discussion?
One question.
Oh.
I just wonder, do we need to make an amendment? I mean, of course, they said they were going to give the district $6,000. Is that in the contract, or do we make it, do we amend? Is there an amendment to that, or? We just, how
Paul,
do you guarantee this all?
Mr. Campo at the,
As I stated before, I wasn't a party to that conversation. I wasn't at that meeting. I don't know what was discussed between the owner and the school district.
We're about to
Taking
find out.
everybody at their word, that will either be the subject of a separate agreement between the applicant and the school district, or during the course of drafting our agreement, we'll build it in, one or the other.
Right, and from our perspective, we've offered $6,000 a year for 10 years of a capital contribution. That hasn't technically been accepted. You heard testimony tonight that it wasn't enough, but that's what it is. So as soon as the school district says it's enough, we'll memorialize that in a contract and go from there.
but to make it as formal as it can possibly be tonight, it should probably be mentioned specifically in.
Well, I think we're on the record of saying that we have made an offer, and we will stand by that offer of a capital contribution in the amount of $6,000 a year for 10 years or until the abatement ends, whichever comes sooner.
Mr. Kepke, are you comfortable with that? Enough of a.
There's a motion on contrary, yes.
Do we have a Bible?
Okay. Christine, I didn't mean to offend you by that. I just want to make sure that we got this thing nailed down.
I'd like to know if they accepted it or not.
Well. Okay. Motion, second, discussion, once, twice, 3 times. Call the vote, please.
Alderman Milson.
Yes.
Alderman White.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Ertz.
Yes.
Alderman Hamilton.
Yes.
Alderman Pardue.
No.
Alderman Van Veskert.
I'll pass.
Alderman Azier.
Pass.
Alderman Lightfoot.
Yes.
Alderman Mock.
Yes.
Alderman Van Veskert.
Yes.
Alderman Azier.
Yes.
Motion passes. To everyone, thanks for your patience. We've had 2 very long meetings on this. Christine, thanks for your good work. To the gentlemen that own the property, thank you for your indulgence. Thanks for sticking with Raytown, keeping your property in good shape, bringing more retailers to Raytown. I thank you. I thank the Main Street folks who are here, the Chamber folks who are here, the school district for their patience with us. And we need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Kramer's got the motion to adjourn, seconded by Mr. Lightfoot. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
I say they're going to have to start paying it more.